On a rain-slicked highway outside Chicago, a simple act of kindness is about to change 2 lives forever. Jack Mitchell isn't your typical roadside hero. He's a master mechanic who can diagnose an engine problem faster than most doctors can write a prescription, working double shifts to give his daughter the life she deserves. When he stops to help a stranded motorist one stormy night, he has no idea he's about to meet Alexandra Chen, the brilliant mind behind America's fastest-growing tech empire, worth $8.7 billion and desperately searching for something her wealth can't buy: genuine connection. This isn't just another rags-to-riches romance. This is the story of how real love transcends bank accounts, and how sometimes the richest person in the room is the one with grease on their hands and kindness in their heart. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from. And if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. The fluorescent lights of Mitchell's auto repair flickered to life at 5:30 a.m., casting a pale glow across the weathered concrete floor. Jack's calloused fingers found the ancient coffee maker by muscle memory, his morning ritual unchanged for the past 5 years. The smell of motor oil and coffee grounds mingled in the air, the scent of survival, of providing, of pushing forward one day at a time. "Daddy, my ribbon's crooked again." Emma's voice echoed through the small office, where a worn couch served as her morning homework station. At 8 years old, she'd mastered the art of doing multiplication tables while surrounded by the symphony of socket wrenches and impact drivers. Jack set down his coffee, crossing the room in 3 strides. His hands, which could disassemble an entire engine with surgical precision, now delicately adjusted the blue ribbon in his daughter's honey-brown hair, the same hair Sarah had before cancer stole her away 3 years ago. Perfect as always. "Sweet pea," he said, catching Emma's reflection in the office's scratched window. "How's that math coming along?" "Almost done. Ms. Rodriguez says I'm getting really good at my times tables." Emma beamed, her front tooth still growing in. The gap in her smile matched the one in Jack's heart, though he'd learned to fill both. With purpose, hers with education and dance classes, his with the endless work of being both mother and father. A stack of bills lay hidden beneath the shop's monthly ledger, their red final notice stamps bleeding through the thin envelopes. Jack had gotten good at creative accounting, juggling payment schedules like he juggled spare parts. The dance studio's latest fee notice sat on top, due by the end of the week. Emma's passion for ballet had survived her mother's passing, and Jack would work until his hands bled before letting that light dim in her eyes. The morning's first customer rolled in at 6:15. Old Mr. Peterson with his equally ancient Buick. The car's timing belt wheezed like an asthmatic dragon, but Jack knew he'd have to lowball the estimate again. The retired teacher had been bringing his car here since before Emma was born, back when Sarah's laughter still filled the office, and their dreams seemed as wide as the Chicago skyline. "Morning, Mr. P," Jack called out, wiping his hands on a shop rag that had seen better days. "Let's see what the old girl needs today." "Jack, my boy," Peterson's weathered face crinkled with familiar warmth. "She's making that sound again, the one you fixed last spring. We'll get her purring right quick." Jack popped the hood, his trained ear already cataloguing the various complaints of aging machinery. He'd learned long ago that cars, like people, told their stories if you just knew how to listen. Emma appeared at his elbow, her backpack nearly as big as she was. "Daddy, don't forget I have practice after school. Miss Julie says we're starting to learn the new routine for the winter showcase." Jack's heart did its usual dance between joy and anxiety. The showcase meant new shoes, new costumes, new expenses. But Emma's face glowed with such hope, such pure passion for her art, that he found himself nodding. "Wouldn't miss it for the world, sweet pea. Mrs. Garcia is picking you up today, remember?" As Emma skipped out to meet her ride to school, Jack caught sight of the dance studio flyer peeking from her bag. Winter Wonderland Showcase, payment due, might as well have been written in neon. He'd figure it out. He always did, even if it meant taking on those late-night repair jobs that left grease under his nails at dawn. The morning sun finally broke. Through Chicago's perpetual cloud cover, casting long shadows across the shop floor. Jack dove into the Buick's engine compartment, letting the familiar work fill his mind. Here, among timing belts and torque wrenches, the world made sense. Cars didn't care about bank accounts or college funds or the rising cost of dance lessons. They just needed skilled hands and an honest heart to make them whole again. If only everything in life could be fixed with a wrench and a little elbow grease. 60 floors above Chicago's bustling streets, Alexandra Chen stood at her floor-to-ceiling window, watching the city's lights flicker to life in the gathering dusk. Her reflection stared back at her, immaculate blazer, perfectly styled hair, the carefully curated image of success. The latest copy of Tech Innovation Quarterly sat on her desk, her own face looking back at her beneath the headline, "The Queen of Silicon Prairie, How Alexandra Chen is Reshaping the Future." Miss Chen, her assistant's voice crackled through the intercom. "The board is waiting in conference room A for the quarterly projections meeting." Alexandra pressed the intercom button, her manicured finger hovering for a moment. "Thank you, David. I'll be there in 5. Her voice carried the quiet authority that had become her trademark, earned through a decade of turning a startup into a tech empire. The magazine's cover story lay open on her desk. At 34, Alexandra Chen has revolutionized how we think about artificial intelligence and human interaction. Her company, Innovatech, is valued at over $8.7 billion, making her one of the youngest self-made billionaires in American history. What the article didn't mention was how empty her penthouse felt at night, or how every potential relationship seemed to wither under the weight of her success. Last month's disaster with the venture capitalist still stung. His casual mention of their power couple potential over what she'd thought was a genuine connection. The boardroom hummed with expectant energy as she entered. 12 faces turned to watch her, each wearing the hungry look of shareholders eyeing their investments. Alexandra had long ago learned to wear their scrutiny like armor. "Ladies and gentlemen," she began, her presentation appearing on the wall-sized screen behind her, "our Q3 results have exceeded projections by 27%. Numbers danced across the screen. Profit margins, market penetration, user acquisition rates. She could recite them in her sleep, just as she could predict the questions that would follow. Impressive numbers, Alexandra." Richard Holbrook, her lead investor, leaned forward. "But there's growing concern about your public image. The market likes stability, family values. You're becoming known as—" He paused, choosing his words carefully, "unapproachable." The word hung in the air like smoke. Alexandra kept her expression neutral, though her fingers tightened imperceptibly around her tablet. "Our users care about innovation, Richard. Innovatech's approval ratings are at an all-time high. Users, yes, but investors, they want to see humanity, relatability." Another board member chimed in. "Have you considered the marriage proposals we forwarded from the Parker family? Their tech holdings would align perfectly with our expansion plans." Alexandra felt the familiar weight settle in her stomach. Every success seemed to come with strings attached, every achievement shadowed by expectations of what a woman in her position should want, should be. Later, alone in her office, she scrolled through her personal email. Invitation after invitation to charity galas, tech conferences, exclusive dating services, promising to find her the perfect power match. The cursor hovered over one from her mother. "Darling, I've met the most wonderful man at the country club." Delete. Her office door opened softly. "Miss Chen." David appeared with a fresh cup of green tea, her one concession to comfort in the office. "The development team has the new AI interface ready for review, and the PR department needs your approval on the Forbes interview questions." "Thank you, David." She accepted the tea, noting how even this small interaction felt scripted, measured. When was the last time someone had surprised her, challenged her, seen past the carefully constructed facade of Alexandra Chen, tech visionary? The city lights were fully ablaze now, a constellation of artificial stars. Somewhere out there, people were having genuine conversations, making real connections. Her latest project, an AI designed to predict human emotional responses, had made headlines for its accuracy. Ironic, she thought, that she could program machines to understand human emotions better than she could navigate them herself. The magazine cover caught her eye again. In the photo, she looked confident, powerful, everything a modern CEO should be. But the smile didn't quite reach her eyes. It never did in these photos. Her phone buzzed. Another notification from her scheduling app. Tomorrow's calendar was already full. Meetings, presentations, a lunch with potential investors who would undoubtedly have more suggestions about her personal life. Alexandra sighed, gathering her things. The cleaning crew would be starting there. Round soon, and even a billionaire CEO shouldn't get in the way of honest work. As her private elevator descended, she caught a glimpse of herself in its mirrored walls. Perfect makeup, perfect hair, perfect loneliness. She wondered, not for the first time, what it would be like to be seen, really seen, for who she was beneath all the perfection. Alexandra's black Mercedes purred quietly as she pulled into Mitchell's auto repair. She'd spent an hour that morning deliberately loosening her car's side mirror, a small imperfection that would justify her return. Through the garage's open door, she could see Jack bent over the engine of an old Ford, his movements precise and practiced. She'd swapped her usual power suit for jeans and a simple sweater, her hair pulled back in a casual ponytail. The diamond studs that usually adorned her ears had been replaced with simple silver ones. Even her usual designer handbag had been left behind in favor of a plain leather purse. Back so soon? Jack straightened up, wiping his hands on a shop rag. Recognition flickered in his eyes, the woman from the rainstorm. His smile was genuine, lacking the calculated warmth she'd grown accustomed to in her business dealings. "The mirror's been giving me trouble," she said, gesturing vaguely at the car. The lie felt strange on her tongue. When was the last time she'd needed to fabricate an excuse to see someone? "Let's take a look." Jack circled the car, his trained eye already assessing the problem. "Shouldn't take more than 15 minutes to fix. You're welcome to wait in the office if you'd like. It's not much, but the coffee's fresh." The office was exactly as she'd imagined from their brief conversation during the storm. Lived in, functional, with touches of family life softening its industrial edges. A child's drawings decorated one wall, bright splashes of crayon between repair manuals and parts catalogues. "I did that one," a small voice announced proudly. Emma stood in the doorway, her school backpack clutched in one hand. "It's our dance studio. See the big windows?" Alexandra found herself drawn to the picture, a building rendered in the unmistakable style of childhood art, with stick figures in tutus pirouetting across the page. "You're a dancer?" Emma's face lit up. "Ballet. We're learning the sugar. And Plum Fairy dance for winter showcase. Want to see?" Before Alexandra could respond, Emma had dropped her backpack and launched into an endearingly wobbly interpretation of the classical piece. Her form wasn't perfect, but her joy was infectious. "Emma, honey," Jack's voice carried from the garage, "let the lady have some peace." "It's fine," Alexandra called back, surprising herself with how much she meant it. "She's quite the performer." Emma beamed, then studied Alexandra with the direct curiosity only children can manage. "Your car's really pretty. Daddy says it's a Mercedes," Alexandra supplied. "But I think I like your dad's truck better. It looks like it has more adventures." Jack appeared in the doorway, something soft crossing his expression as he watched them. "Mirrors all set, just needed a quick adjustment." Alexandra reached for her purse, but Jack shook his head. "No charge for something this simple." Besides, you've been a great audience for Emma's impromptu recital. At least let me—" Alexandra began, but stopped at the quiet pride in Jack's stance. This wasn't the polished rejection of her wealth she was used to. This was something more genuine, more grounded. Emma tugged at her sleeve. "Will you come see our real recital? It's going to have sparkly costumes and everything." "Emma!" Jack's tone carried a gentle warning, but Alexandra found herself pulling out her phone. "I'd love to," she said, surprising them both. "If that's okay?" A moment passed between them. Jack studying her face, perhaps seeing past the careful casualness of her outfit to something more real. Finally, he nodded. "It's next month. Might not be as fancy as what you're used to, but sometimes the best things aren't fancy at all," Alexandra said softly, watching Emma return to her picture, adding what appeared to be a rainbow above the dance studio. As she left the shop, her perfectly functional mirror adjusted exactly as it had been that morning. Alexandra caught sight of her reflection. For the first time in years, her smile reached her eyes. Behind her, through the shop's window, she could see Emma showing Jack a new drawing. Her heart did something unexpected. It ached, not with the familiar loneliness, but with a warmth she'd almost forgotten existed. The notice on Miss Julie's dance studio's door stopped Jack cold. "Final month closing due to building sale." Through the glass, he could see Emma's instructor gathering the younger students for their afternoon class, her usual bright smile dimmed by worry. "Did you see it, Daddy?" Emma clutched his hand, her small fingers tight with concern. "Tommy said we might not get to do our winter show." Jack squeezed her hand, trying to keep his voice steady. "Don't worry, sweet pea. I'm sure Miss Julie has a plan." Inside, the usually cheerful studio felt heavy with unspoken anxiety. Parents huddled in small groups, whispering behind registration forms. The ancient heating system clanked and wheezed, as if protesting its own impending demise. "Jack!" Julie Martinez hurried over, her ballet bun slightly askew. "I'm so glad you're here early. The heating's acting up again, and with everything else—" "I'll take a look," he offered immediately. The studio's heating system had been his pet project for years, nursed through Chicago winters with spare parts and determination. "Emma, go get ready for class, okay?" As Emma scampered off to join her friends, Julie's professional composure cracked slightly. "The building owner's selling to developers. Unless we can raise enough for repairs and 3 months advance rent at the new location." She gestured helplessly at the donation box by the front desk, its meager contents barely covering the bottom. Jack followed Julie to the utility room, his mind already cataloguing what he'd need to fix the heating. The ancient boiler greeted him like an old friend, temperamental but honest in its complaints. "How much?" he asked quietly, pulling out his toolbox. $50,000 for the down payment and repairs at the new place." Julie's voice was barely a whisper. "I've been teaching here for 15 years, Jack. Some of these kids, this is the only place they have." He nodded, understanding completely. The studio wasn't just about dance. It was a sanctuary, a place where children like Emma could forget about loss and worry for a few precious hours. 3 days later, Julie burst into the morning class, waving a letter. "It's a miracle!" Her voice carried over the piano music. "An anonymous donor. They're not just saving the studio, they're helping us renovate the new location." The room erupted in cheers. Jack, dropping Emma off before work, felt his chest tighten with equal parts relief and curiosity. "There's more," Julie continued, her eyes bright. "They're specifically funding a scholarship program for students who've lost a parent." Emma's hand found his, squeezing tight. Jack blinked hard against sudden moisture in his eyes. That afternoon, he volunteered to help with the move. The new location was only a few blocks away, a beautiful old building with high windows and solid bones. As he examined the heating system, he found a note taped to the boiler. "Could use your expertise, no charge this time. Consider it payment for a good man's kindness on a rainy night." Jack stared at the note, recognition dawning. The handwriting matched the rain-smudged business card still tucked in his wallet. "Look, Daddy!" Emma called from the main studio. "The windows are just like in my drawing." He followed her voice, finding her twirling in a shaft of sunlight streaming through tall, arched windows. The space was larger than the old studio, with fresh paint and new bars along the walls. In one corner, a small plaque caught his eye. "In memory of those who taught us to dance through life's storms." His phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "The heating system's quite complex. Might need regular maintenance. Know anyone qualified?" For a long moment, Jack stood in the warm sunlight, watching Emma dance, the phone heavy in his hand. Finally, he typed back, "Depends. Does the job come with recital tickets?" The response came quickly. "Front row, but only if you'll let me. Thank you properly for that rainy night." Around him, the sounds of children laughing and piano music filled the air, a symphony of second chances. The Corner Cup Cafe sat wedged between a laundromat and a second-hand bookstore, its faded awning and mismatched chairs a stark contrast to the sleek coffee chains dotting downtown Chicago. Alexandra found herself there for the third time that week, her laptop open but forgotten as she watched the morning regulars drift in and out. The usual Alex. Maria, the owner, already had a ceramic mug ready. Over the past few weeks, Alexandra had graduated from Miss to Alex, her usual triple-shot espresso replaced by the house blend served in a chipped blue mug that somehow made the coffee taste better. "Thanks, Maria." She'd stopped wearing designer labels to the cafe after the first week. Here, in worn jeans and a simple sweater, she was just another face in the morning crowd. The freedom was intoxicating. The bell above the door chimed. "Daddy, can I get hot chocolate, please?" Emma's voice carried across the cafe, and Alexandra found herself smiling before she even looked up. "If you finished your math homework." Jack's response was automatic, tired but fond. His eyes met Alexandra's across the room, his smile warming. "Morning, Alex. Fancy meeting you here again?" She felt her cheeks warm at the gentle teasing in his voice. They both knew this wasn't coincidence. The Corner Cup lay halfway between his shop and Emma's school, and Alexandra had memorized their morning routine with the same precision she usually reserved for board meetings. "The Wi-Fi's better here," she offered, the lie comfortable between them. Her state-of-the-art mobile hotspot sat unused in her bag. Emma bounced over, her backpack covered in ballet stickers. "Alex, want to see my new dance moves? Miss Julie says I'm getting really good at my pirouettes." "After your hot chocolate, sweet pea." Jack caught her mid-twirl. "Let's not take out any tables this time." Alexandra closed her laptop as they settled at her table, Emma's hot chocolate topped with a mountain of whipped cream. These morning meetings had become her favorite part of the day, stolen moments of normalcy before she had to return to being Alexandra Chen, tech visionary. "Miss Rodriguez gave me an A on my science project," Emma announced, proudly pulling a slightly crumpled paper from her bag. "The one about simple machines, remember? Like the ones in Daddy's shop." "That's wonderful!" Alexandra examined the paper with genuine interest. "Your diagram of the lever system is very detailed." "Alex helped me understand the fancy words," Emma told Jack. "Did you know she knows everything about computers and robots and stuff?" Jack's eyebrow rose slightly. "Does she now?" Alexandra felt her heart skip. She'd been careful to keep her real identity hidden, explaining away her tech knowledge as a general interest. But Emma's innocent comments were starting to pile up like breadcrumbs, leading to a truth she wasn't ready to reveal. "Speaking of robots," Jack said, checking his watch, "we better get moving before you're late for school, kiddo." "But I didn't finish telling Alex about the recital costumes." "Tomorrow," Alexandra found herself promising. "Same time?" The hope in Emma's smile made her heart ache. When was the last time someone had looked forward to seeing her, Alexandra? Chen, not her wealth or influence. As they left, Maria appeared with a coffee pot. "You know, honey, I've known Jack Mitchell for 10 years. Never seen him warm up to anyone the way he has to you." Alexandra traced the rim of her mug. "He's different. Real." Maria's knowing look spoke volumes. Just remember, real works both ways. Back in her office an hour later, Alexandra stared at the morning's headlines on her tablet. Innovatech CEO Alexandra Chen, the woman behind the algorithm. Her own face stared back at her, polished and professional, worlds away from the woman who just shared breakfast with a mechanic and his daughter. "Miss Chen," David hovered in the doorway, "your 10 a.m. is wondering about your whereabouts." "Tell them I'm running late," she said, her fingers finding the loyalty card from the corner cup in her wallet. 7 stamps already. Proof of a life starting to exist outside these glass walls. David hesitated. "The board is concerned about your recent morning absences." Alexandra thought of Emma's science project, of Jack's quiet strength, of Maria's knowing smile. For the first time in years, she found herself unwilling to bend to the board's concerns. "The board will have to learn to be more flexible," she said, surprising them both with her firmness. "Some things are worth being late for." "Miss Chen, the board is requesting an emergency meeting." David's voice carried unusual tension as he entered her office. "They're citing concerns about company image and personal matters." Alexandra looked up from her laptop, where she'd been reviewing the dance studio's contractor estimates. "When?" "They're already waiting." She closed the laptop with a quiet click, straightening her blazer as she stood. The boardroom felt colder than usual, faces lined up like judges at a tribunal. Richard Holbrook stood as she entered. "Alexandra, thank you for joining us. We've been reviewing the latest media coverage." He gestured to the wall screen, where photos filled the display. Alexandra at the corner cup, walking with Emma to the dance studio, laughing with Jack outside his shop. "Care to explain why our CEO is spending her mornings in a cut-rate cafe instead of preparing for the Anderson merger?" Meanwhile, across town, Jack sat across from Mr. Peterson at Chicago First Bank, his 4th loan rejection letter of the week, lying between them like a guilty verdict. "I'm sorry, Jack." Peterson's face carried genuine regret. "Your credit score, the shop's collateral. With these new banking regulations, my hands are tied." Jack nodded, gathering the paperwork with steady hands that betrayed none of his inner turmoil. The shop's aging diagnostic equipment needed updating to handle newer car models. Without it, he'd lose customers to the bigger garages. "Thanks for trying, Mr. P." He stood, shoulders straight despite the weight pressing down on them. Back in the boardroom, Alexandra faced the increasingly hostile questions with practiced calm. "Your public image directly impacts investor confidence," another board member pressed. "These photos, they make you appear common. They make me appear human," Alexandra countered, her voice level. "Our entire company is built on making technology more personal, more accessible. There's accessible, and then there's this." Richard flicked to another photo, Jack's shop, the weathered, sign clearly visible. "Do you have any idea what consorting with mechanics could do to our stock prices?" Something hot and fierce flared in Alexandra's chest. "That mechanic has more integrity in his oil-stained hands than half the CEOs I meet at charity galas." A heavy silence fell over the room. "Alexandra," Richard's voice softened dangerously, "we've been patient. But there are rumors of a possible hostile takeover bid from Waytech. We need you focused, need you projecting the right image. The board has taken the liberty of arranging some suitable social engagements." At his shop, Jack stared at the bank's rejection letter, the words blurring together. The bell chimed as a customer entered, Paul Chen from the local news station, his BMW making concerning noises. "Jack, my man!" Paul's handshake was enthusiastic. "Hey, weird question. That woman who's been hanging around your shop lately? Tall, Asian, carries herself like old money." Jack's spine stiffened. "What about her? Any chance she mentioned what she does for a living?" Paul's reporter instincts were clearly engaged. "Because she looks exactly like Alexandra Chen, the Innovatech CEO. Our station's been trying to get an interview with her for months." The name hit Jack like a physical blow. He remembered Emma chattering about Alex knowing about computers. remembered the way she sometimes tensed when business news played on the shop's small TV. "Must be a coincidence," he said, but his mind was already connecting dots he'd been too blind or too hopeful to see before. In her office, that evening, Alexandra stared at her phone, at the text she'd been about to send Jack about meeting for coffee tomorrow. Her screen filled with breaking news notifications. Innovatech faces possible hostile takeover. Tech queen Alexandra Chen's secret life exposed. Way Tech positions for aggressive market move. Her finger hovered over the keyboard. How could she explain who she was? How could she make him understand that the woman he knew at the corner cup was more real than any version of herself she'd been in years? The phone buzzed. A text from Jack. "Need to talk, it's important." Alexandra's heart sank. She knew that tone, had heard it from others when they discovered her true identity. But this time, the prospect of losing this connection, of seeing disappointment replace warmth in Jack's eyes, felt like losing something precious and irreplaceable. Outside her window, Chicago's lights twinkled indifferently, offering no answers to the questions weighing on both their hearts. The renovated dance studio hummed with pre-recital energy, a symphony of nervous giggles and shuffling ballet slippers. Jack stood in the doorway of Emma's dressing room, a small bouquet of daisies clutched in his hand, watching his daughter twirl in her new costume. "Do you think Alex will like it, Daddy?" Emma adjusted her sparkly tutu for the 100th time. "She helped me practice my arabesques last week." Jack's throat tightened. The mysterious appearance of new dance shoes in Emma's exact size hadn't gone unnoticed, nor had the way his daughter's face lit up whenever Alex, he corrected himself, entered a room. "She'll love it, sweet pea." He handed her the daisies, trying to ignore the far more expensive bouquet he'd spotted being delivered earlier. Its card signed simply A. The audience area was filling up, parents and grandparents claiming seats, with smartphones ready. Jack checked his watch, then the door, then his phone. No messages, no explanations, no Alex. "5 minutes, everyone," Miss Julie called out, her voice carrying over the growing excitement. Emma gave Jack a quick hug before scampering off to join her group, her tutu bouncing with each step. Just as the lights began to dim, a figure slipped into the empty seat beside him. Alexandra's familiar perfume mixed with the scent of rain from outside. "I'm sorry I'm late," she whispered. "The board meeting." "Alexandra Chen," he said quietly, feeling her stiffen beside him. "That's your full name, isn't it?" Before she could respond, the music started. Emma's class filed onto the stage, their faces serious with concentration. Jack felt Alexandra's hand find his in the darkness, a gesture so natural it hurt. "We should talk," she breathed, "but not now. This is Emma's moment." On stage, Emma moved through her routine with unexpected grace, her face glowing under the lights. When she executed a perfect pirouette, the one she'd practiced for weeks in the shop after hours, Jack heard Alexandra's small gasp of pride beside him. The recital passed in a blur of music and movement. Emma's solo piece drew tears from Miss Julie, her small body telling a story of loss and hope through dance that made Jack's heart ache. He wasn't sure when his fingers had intertwined with Alexandra's, but neither of them let go until the final bow. Afterward, surrounded by proud parents and excited dancers, Emma ran to them both. Did you see my turns? You were amazing, sweetheart." Alexandra knelt to her level, helping adjust a loose ribbon. The gesture was so maternal, so unconscious, that Jack had to look away. "The shoes you got me worked perfectly." Emma beamed, then froze, looking up at her father. "Oops." Jack watched the color drain from Alexandra's face. "Emma, honey, why don't you go thank Miss Julie? I need to talk to Alex for a minute." Once, Emma had bounded away. Alexandra stood, squaring her shoulders like she was facing a hostile takeover rather than a conversation. "Jack, I can explain the shoes, the studio renovation, the mysterious donation." He ticked them off on his fingers. "Was any of it real, Alexandra? Or was this all just some billionaire's game of playing normal? The hurt in her eyes stopped him cold. "Don't," she whispered. "Don't make what we have about money. The shoes were because Emma needed them. The studio because this community deserves it. And the mornings at the Corner Cup, those were the most real moments of my life. Why didn't you tell me?" "Because for the first time in years, someone was seeing me, not my net worth." Her voice cracked slightly. "You fixed my car that night without knowing who I was, without wanting anything except to help. Do you know how rare that is in my world?" Emma's laughter carried across the room, and they both turned to watch her showing off her new moves to her friends. "She adores you," Jack said finally. "The real you, whatever name you go by." "And you?" Alexandra's question hung between them, fragile as a soap bubble. Before Jack could answer, a flash went off nearby. A reporter, Paul Chen from the local news, stood with his phone raised. "Ms. Chen, is it true Wei Tech is planning a hostile takeover? Any comment on your involvement with a local mechanic and his daughter?" The moment shattered. Alexandra's face shifted, a mask of professional composure sliding into place so smoothly it frightened Jack a little. "No comment," she said crisply, then turned back to Jack. "I have to go. Please let me explain everything. Tomorrow?" He nodded, watching as she slipped away through the crowd, her designer heels clicking against the dance studio's newly renovated floors. Emma appeared at his side, still glowing from her performance. "Daddy, is Alex coming for ice cream with us?" Jack pulled her close, breathing in the familiar scent of baby powder and hairspray. "Not tonight, sweet pea, but I think we all have some talking to do tomorrow." In his pocket, the program from the recital crinkled. Emma's name printed, clearly in the solo section, with a small star next to it marking her as a scholarship recipient. The morning after the recital, Jack's laptop sat open on his office desk, dozens of browser tabs revealing the scope of Alexandra Chen's world. Headlines stretched back years. Innovatech IPO breaks records. Chen revolutionizes AI industry. Tech's most eligible CEO. The numbers made his head spin. Billions in revenue, thousands of employees, corporate holdings across 3 continents. "Hey, Jack." Mike, his senior mechanic, appeared in the doorway. "You might want to see this." He handed over the morning paper. There, on the front page of the local section, was a photo from last night. Alexandra kneeling beside Emma, adjusting her ballet ribbon. The headline read, "Tech Billionaire's Secret Life, Romance with Local Mechanic." "Guess that explains." "The suits parked across the street," Mike said quietly. Jack glanced out the window. 2 black SUVs idled at the curb, men in dark suits watching the shop with professional disinterest. His phone buzzed, a text from Mrs. Garcia next door. "Channel 7 news van just asked about you, told them to get lost. Emma okay?" He'd kept. Emma home from school today, sensing the storm brewing. She was in the back office now, working on homework and blissfully unaware of the growing chaos. "Uncle Mike," Emma's voice carried from the office. "Come see my recital video." Mike gave Jack a knowing look before heading to entertain Emma. Left alone, Jack returned to his research, each new article adding layers to the woman he thought he knew. Alexandra's corporate headshots were a far cry from the Alex who shared morning coffee with them. Designer suits replaced worn jeans, practice smiles replaced genuine laughter. But in some photos, usually candid shots at tech conferences, he caught glimpses of the woman who helped Emma with science projects and remembered how everyone at the Corner Cup took their coffee. A news alert popped up. Wei Tech CEO announces interest in Innovatech acquisition. The article mentioned corporate culture concerns and leadership stability questions. Jack's jaw tightened, recognizing the corporate equivalent of vultures. Circling, his phone buzzed again. Paul Chen from the news station. "Jack, we should talk. This story's going viral. Let me help you get ahead of it." Delete. A soft knock at the door made him look up. Maria from the Corner Cup stood there, holding a familiar blue coffee mug. "Thought you might need this," she said, setting the cup down. "And maybe a friendly ear." Jack ran a hand over his face. Did you know who she was? Suspected after the first week. Maria settled into the chair across from him. But that woman who lights up when your daughter hugs her, who actually listens when old Thomas rambles about his grandkids, that's not the CEO from the papers, that's just Alex, who happens to be worth $8 billion, Jack said dryly. Worth and worth are different things, Maria replied. I've seen how she looks at you when you're not watching, like she can't believe something so real exists in her world. Emma's laughter drifted in from the back office, followed by the sound of her showing Mike another dance move. The security suits across the street shifted, speaking into their earpieces. Jack's computer chimed with another news alert. Innovatech board calls emergency session. CEO's future in question. The board's trying to push her out, he realized, pieces clicking into place. Because of us. Because she's not playing by their rules anymore. Maria watched him process this. Question is, what are you going to do about it? Before he could answer, Emma burst in. Daddy, look what I found. In my dance bag. She held up a small note, written in Alexandra's elegant hand. For my favorite dancer, never stop believing in magic. Love, Alex. Jack took the note, remembering Alexandra's face in the darkness of the recital, the way she'd held his hand like it was an anchor in a storm. The press wants a story, he said finally, but they're missing the real one. Maria smiled, standing to leave. And what's that? Jack looked at the security detail outside. The news van trying to park discreetly around the corner. The corporate. Wolves circling Alexandra's life. That sometimes, he said, being real is the bravest thing you can be. The corner cup was closed, its windows dark except for a single light in the back. Maria had given Alexandra her key, along with a knowing look and a quiet, fix this. Now, as Jack pushed open the door, the familiar bell chimed in the empty cafe. Alexandra sat at their usual table, her corporate armor stripped away. No designer suit, no perfect makeup, just Alex in a worn sweater, hands wrapped around a blue ceramic mug. Your security detail is very conspicuous, Jack said, sliding into the seat across from her. Black SUVs aren't exactly common in this neighborhood. I told them to stay back. Her voice was quiet, tired. This isn't their business. No, because, according to every news outlet in Chicago, my daughter and I are very much Innovatech's business right now. Alexandra flinched. On the table between them lay her company ID badge, the one that had fallen from her purse at the recital. The same badge Jack had found, its corporate logo and CEO title impossible to miss. I should have told you sooner, she began. Which part? Jack's voice remained level, but his fingers gripped his mug too tightly. That you're running a multi-billion-dollar company, that every moment of our lives for the past months has probably been documented by paparazzi, that my 8-year-old daughter is now gossip column fodder? None of that was supposed to happen. Alexandra pushed her mug away. When you helped me that night in the rain, you were the first person in years who didn't want anything from me, who just helped because it was the right thing to do. I couldn't let that go. So you played pretend? Slummed it with the mechanic? And his kid? No, the word burst from her with such force that they both startled. Every moment was real. The coffee, the conversations, Emma's science project, that was me. The real me, not the CEO, not the public figure. Just me. Jack studied her face, searching for the manipulation, the calculation he'd expected to find. Instead, he saw only the woman who laughed at Emma's jokes, who remembered how he took his coffee, who looked at his worn-down shop and saw not poverty, but pride. The shoes, he said finally. Emma's dance shoes. Alexandra's eyes softened. She needed them. Her old ones were falling apart, and I saw how you were struggling with the shop's expenses. I thought I could help quietly. And the dance studio, the mysterious donation. That community means everything to Emma. To you, she met his gaze steadily. My money, it's just money. But what you've built here, the relationships, the trust, the way people look out for each other, that's real wealth. I wanted to protect that. Outside, a camera flash went off. Jack saw Alexandra's shoulders tense, years of public scrutiny creating an instinctive response. "The board's trying to force you out," he said. It wasn't a question. "They think I'm becoming a liability, too common." Her laugh held no humor. "Apparently CEOs aren't supposed to drink coffee in neighborhood cafes or attend children's dance recitals." "What do you want, Alexandra?" Jack asked quietly. "Not the board, not the shareholders, you." She looked around the empty cafe, at the mismatched chairs and worn tables that had become more home to her than her penthouse office. "I want mornings with you and Emma. I want to help with homework and watch dance practices. I want to be the person I am when I'm here, not the corporate image they created." Her voice cracked slightly. "I want real." Jack reached across the table, taking her hand. Her fingers were trembling. "Real comes with a price," he said. "No more secrets. No more anonymous donations. If we do this, if we try to build something here, it has to be honest. Emma deserves that, we all do." Alexandra squeezed his hand, and in that grip was the strength that had built empires and the vulnerability that had brought her to his. "Udor, I'm scared," she admitted. "Not of losing the company or the money. I'm scared of losing this, of losing you both." Another camera flash, another reminder of the world pressing in. But in the quiet of the cafe, surrounded by the ghosts of their morning coffees and shared laughter, Jack and Alexandra held on to something that no headline could capture. The simple, terrifying truth of two people choosing to be real in a world of carefully crafted images. The Corner Cup's morning rush felt emptier without Alexandra. Jack caught himself glancing at her usual table, now occupied by a young couple bent over their phones. Emma's untouched hot chocolate grew cold, her usual chatter replaced by quiet. That broke his heart. "She'll come back, right, Daddy?" Emma pushed her mug away, her small face serious. "Alex promised to help with my science fair project." Jack's phone sat silent on the table, a dozen unsent text messages stored in his drafts. Each one started differently. "We need to talk. Emma misses you. I miss you." But none felt right. "It's complicated, sweet pea," he managed, watching his daughter's face fall. The news vans had finally left his shop after a week of staking out the street. His regular customers had formed a protective barrier, parking their cars to block camera angles, bringing coffee and sympathy. But nothing could shield them from the headlines that screamed from every newsstand. "Tech CEO's double life exposed." "Innovatech stock plummets amid leadership crisis." "Waytech positions for aggressive takeover." In her penthouse office, Alexandra stared at her own phone, at the last message from Jack, still unanswered. "Emma asked about you today, again." The words burned like accusation. "Miss Chen," David hovered in the doorway. "The board is requesting your presence. Waytech's representatives have arrived." She nodded, sliding her CEO mask back into place. But as she gathered her papers, a crayon drawing fell from between the pages. Emma's artwork of the three of them at the dance studio, stick figures holding hands under a rainbow sky. The days stretched into weeks. Jack threw himself into work, taking on extra repairs to keep his mind occupied. But every Mercedes that pulled into his shop made his heart jump, and every dark-haired woman in business attire drew his eye before he could stop himself. Emma's dance classes became an exercise in avoidance. The other parents whispered behind their hands, their sympathy almost worse than their judgment. The local news had run a feature on the fairy tale romance between the billionaire and the mechanic, turning their private connection into public entertainment. "She hasn't even checked our loyalty card," Maria commented one morning, sliding Jack's coffee across the counter. The card sat in his wallet, one stamp short of a free drink. Alexandra's initials marking each visit like chapters in a story left unfinished. At Innovatech, Alexandra moved through her days like a ghost in designer clothing. Board meetings, investor calls, press conferences. She performed flawlessly, her professional smile never wavering. But her office's glass walls felt more like a prison than ever. The city skyline a barrier between two worlds she could no longer bridge. The Waytech offer is gaining shareholder support, Richard informed her during yet another crisis meeting. Your recent publicity hasn't helped matters. She caught her reflection in the window. Perfect hair, perfect suit, perfectly miserable. On her desk, her phone showed no new messages, the last text from Jack still hanging in digital limbo. Emma's science fair came and went. She won third place for her project on simple machines, inspired by her father's shop. The blue ribbon felt heavy as she pinned it to her backpack next to her ballet achievements. "Can we drive by Alex's building?" she asked one evening as they passed the gleaming downtown towers. "Just to see if she's okay?" Jack's hands tightened on the steering wheel. "She's busy, Emma, running her company, but she always made time. You for us before." The truth of a child's observation hit him hard. Alexandra had made time, stolen it, carved it out of her impossible schedule, treasured it like something precious. While he'd focused on the deception, he'd forgotten to count the choices she'd made to be present in their lives. At night, alone in his small house, Jack found himself watching business news, something he'd never cared about before. Alexandra appeared occasionally, handling press conferences with grace under fire, but he saw what others missed: the tension in her shoulders, the slight tremor in her hands, the way her smile never quite reached her eyes anymore. His phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "She misses you both, more than she can say." Below was a photo of Alexandra's desk, Emma's, crayon drawing pinned prominently beside her computer screen. Jack recognized David's name from the news coverage, Alexandra's loyal assistant. He started to type a response, then stopped. What could he say? That he missed her too? That Emma cried herself to sleep clutching the ballet shoes Alexandra had given her? That every morning at the corner cup felt wrong without her? The truth was both simple and complicated. They'd built something real in the spaces between their worlds, and now those spaces felt emptier than either of them had expected. The Innovatech boardroom crackled with tension. Alexandra sat at the head of the table, facing down 12 board members and the Waytech delegation. Through the floor-to-ceiling windows, storm clouds gathered over Chicago's skyline. Nature, matching mood. "The numbers are clear," Richard Holbrook declared, sliding documents across the polished table. "Waytech's offer represents a 30% premium over current market value. With recent events affecting investor confidence, we'd be negligent to dismiss it." Alexandra studied the takeover documents, her face impassive. Behind the professional mask, her mind raced. Waytech's reputation for aggressive acquisitions was well known. They stripped companies for parts, discarded innovation for quick profits. "And the employees?" she asked, thinking of the thousands who'd helped build Innovatech from dream to reality. "The ongoing projects?" Marcus Way, CEO of Waytech, smiled thinly. "We value Innovatech's assets, though some restructuring would naturally be required." Translation: mass layoffs, project cancellations, the end of everything she'd built. Her phone buzzed quietly. Another message from David about the press gathering in the lobby, sensing blood in the water. "The board has already taken a preliminary vote," Richard continued, not meeting her eyes. "With your recent behavior raising concerns about leadership stability." "My behavior?" Alexandra's voice could have frozen flame. "You mean having coffee in a local cafe, attending a child's dance recital, being human, being inappropriate," another board member cut in. "This, a dalliance with a mechanic, exposing yourself to public ridicule." "His name is Jack Mitchell." Alexandra stood, her chair rolling back. "And he's taught me more about integrity in 3 months than I've seen in 10 years of board meetings." The room fell silent. Outside, thunder rumbled. "Alexandra," Richard's voice softened paternally, "you've built something remarkable here. Don't let personal feelings cloud your judgment. Waytech's offer is generous. You'd retain a consulting position, of course." A gilded cage, she thought, another corporate puppet stripped of real power. Her phone lit up with a news alert. "Mitchell's Auto repair faces closure. Local heroes shop threatened by banking crisis. The article mentioned denied loans, outdated equipment, a changing neighborhood. Alexandra's heart clenched. She'd kept her distance, respected Jack's need for space, but she'd had no idea things had gotten so dire. Take the evening to consider. Our offer, Marcus Way suggested smoothly. We'll reconvene tomorrow for the final vote. As the room emptied, Richard lingered. You know I've always supported you, Alexandra. But this common life you're chasing, it's a fantasy. You don't belong in that world. She looked out at the storm-darkened city, at the gleaming towers and the distant neighborhoods where real life happened in coffee shops and dance studios and auto repair shops. Maybe, she said quietly, that world belongs in ours. Her phone buzzed again. A text from Maria at the corner cup. He misses you. They both do. And he's too proud to tell you he's losing everything. Alexandra picked up the takeover documents, feeling their weight. Inside lay the destruction of her company, her dreams, her legacy. But maybe also the seed of something else, something real. David, she called, decision crystallizing. Get me the latest market analysis, employee statistics and project valuations, and find out if Mitchell's Auto Repair has any outstanding loan applications. Planning a counter-strategy? David asked, already typing. Alexandra smiled, thinking of Emma's crayon drawings and Jack's quiet strength. No, planning a revolution. The storm broke over Chicago, rain lashing the windows. Somewhere out there in a small auto shop, a father and daughter were probably sharing hot chocolate, missing someone they'd let into their world. Tomorrow would decide everything, not just for Innovatech, but for 3 people who'd found something genuine in a world of corporate shadows. Alexandra pulled out her phone, fingers hovering over Jack's number. Sometimes losing everything was the first step to gaining something real. The emergency room's fluorescent lights cast harsh shadows across Emma's pale face as she lay on the hospital bed, her small frame made smaller by the white sheets. Jack sat beside her, his calloused hand gentle around her tiny fingers, watching. The fever raged through his daughter's body. "Daddy," Emma's voice cracked, "can you call Alex? She always makes things better." Jack's heart twisted. The doctors had mentioned appendicitis, their voices low and urgent. Surgery was likely, they said. He needed to fill out forms, discuss insurance, make decisions. His mind spun with numbers he couldn't make work. A soft knock at the door made him look up. Alexandra stood in the doorway, her designer suit wrinkled, her face stripped of makeup, her eyes wide with concern. "Maria called me," she said quietly. "I came as soon as I heard." "Alex!" Emma's face lit up despite the pain, and Jack saw tears spring to Alexandra's eyes. "Hey, princess." She crossed the room, taking Emma's other hand. "Not feeling so great, huh?" Jack watched as Alexandra smoothed Emma's hair back from her forehead. The gesture so natural, so maternal, it made his throat tight. Gone was any trace of the corporate CEO. This was just Alex, the woman who knew how Emma liked her hot chocolate and could recite all her dance routines by heart. "Mr. Mitchell?" A nurse appeared with more forms. "We need to discuss the surgical deposit and insurance coverage." Before Jack could respond, Alexandra stood. "I'll handle the paperwork. You stay with Emma." "Alexandra," he began, pride warring with necessity. "Please, Jack." Her voice was soft but firm. "Let me do this, not because I can, but because I love her too." The simple truth of those words hung between them. Jack looked at his daughter, at the woman who'd become so essential to their lives, and nodded once. Hours blurred together in the surgical waiting room. Alexandra had shed her suit jacket, her silk blouse rumpled, her feet bare after kicking off painful heels. She paced while Jack sat rigid, both of them watching the clock crawl. "I should have told you," she said suddenly, stopping mid-pace. "About the shop. I knew things were getting difficult with the loans. You had your own battles." Jack gestured to the newspaper someone had left on a nearby table, its headline screaming about Innovatech's impending takeover. "The company's just a company." Alexandra sank into the chair beside him. But you and Emma, you became my real life. The board thinks I've lost focus because I spend my mornings in a cafe, because I care about a dance studio and an auto shop. They don't understand that those mornings, those moments, they're the only time I feel truly myself. Jack looked at her, really looked at her. The woman who'd appeared at the hospital wasn't Alexandra Chen, CEO. She was Alex, who kept Emma's drawings in her office, who remembered everyone's coffee orders, who saw value in things that would never show up on a balance sheet. The surgery. Deposit, he said quietly. I can't pay you back, not with the shop struggling. Stop! She took his hand, her fingers trembling slightly. I don't want you to pay me back. I want you to let me be part of your lives again. No more walls, no more separation. I miss you both so much it hurts. Before Jack could respond, the surgeon appeared. They both stood, hands still clasped. She's going to be fine, the doctor smiled. The surgery went perfectly. She's asking for both her dad and someone named Alex. Relief made Jack's knees weak. Alexandra steadied him, her strength flowing into him through their joined hands. Go see our girl, she whispered. I'll be right here. In that moment, surrounded by the antiseptic smell of hospital corridors and the weight of almost losing everything, Jack finally understood. Love wasn't about bank accounts or social status. It was about who showed up when it mattered, who held your hand in waiting rooms, who loved your child like their own. Alex, he said, using the name that belonged to their coffee shop mornings and dance recitals. Come with me. Emma's waiting for both of us. Alexandra sat in her office at dawn, watching the sun paint Chicago's skyline in shades of gold. On her desk lay 2 documents, Waytech's final takeover offer and a handwritten letter of resignation. Between them sat Emma's get-well card, decorated with glitter and wobbly hearts. Your 7 a.m. strategy meeting is waiting, David announced softly, and the board expects your decision by noon. She nodded, fingers tracing Emma's signature on the card. The little girl was recovering well already, begging to return to dance class. Yesterday, Alexandra had spent her lunch break smuggling contraband ice cream into the hospital, watching Jack try not to laugh as Emma detailed all the adventures she'd had with the nurses. Ms. Chen, a junior analyst, hovered in the doorway. The latest projections you requested. The numbers were brutal. Waytech's offer would save the shareholders, but at the cost of everything else. Research projects cancelled, jobs lost, innovations abandoned. The soul of Innovatech traded for stock options and golden parachutes. Her phone buzzed, a text from Jack. Emma's asking if Alex can come for breakfast. The corner cup has your blue mug ready. Something broke and mended inside her chest simultaneously. It was the choice, crystallized in a simple invitation. Corporate kingdoms or morning coffee, billion-dollar deals or crayon drawings, power suits or worn jeans and real smiles. David, she said suddenly, get me everything we have on independent investment strategies and call Mitchell's Auto Repair. I need their complete financial records. Her assistant's eyes widened with understanding. You're not taking the Waytech offer. No. Alexandra stood, energy coursing through her. I'm changing the game. The strategy meeting buzzed with tension as she laid out her plan. Not surrender to Waytech, but transformation. Employee stock ownership, community investment initiatives, a new division focused on small business technology integration. The board will fight this, her CFO warned. It's too radical, too humanitarian. Then they can fire me. Alexandra's voice was steel wrapped in silk. But first, they'll have to hear why their CEO thinks local auto shops matter more than corporate acquisitions. She spent the morning building her case, numbers and narratives weaving together. Her phone kept buzzing. Jack sending photos of Emma attempting to eat breakfast one-handed, careful of her IV. At 11:55, she walked into the boardroom. Richard Holbrook sat with Marcus Way, documents ready for signing. Before we begin, Alexandra said, taking her place at the head of the table, I'd like to tell you a story about a mechanic who fixed my car in the rain. Alexandra. Richard's warning was clear in his tone. He fixed it, she continued, not because I was a CEO, not because he wanted anything, but because it was the right thing to do. And that's when I realized what we've forgotten in our corporate towers, that real value isn't just in stock prices. She laid out her counter-proposal. Community investment funds, small business partnerships, technology democratization initiatives. We didn't build Innovatech to be another corporate machine. We built it to make technology serve humanity, not the other way around. This is business, Marcus Way cut in, not a charity. No, Alexandra smiled, steel entering her voice. This is evolution. And if the board doesn't like it, I'll take my shares, my patents and my team, and we'll start over. Maybe in a building next to a certain auto shop. The room erupted in chaos. But through the arguing voices, Alexandra felt a strange peace. Her phone buzzed one last time, a photo from Jack. Emma had drawn a new picture, 3 stick figures holding hands outside a building that somehow managed to be both a tech company and an auto shop, with a coffee cup sun shining overhead. The choice, in the end, wasn't really a choice at all. It was simply recognizing where her heart had already made its home. The headline splashed across every major news outlet in Chicago. Tech CEO chooses love over billions. Below it, a photo captured Alexandra helping Emma into Jack's truck outside the hospital, their faces lit with natural warmth. No publicity. Team could stage. Are we famous now? Emma asked over breakfast at the corner cup, her hospital bracelet still around her wrist. She was perched between Jack and Alexandra, demolishing a stack of Maria's special pancakes. Not us, sweet pea, Jack smiled, catching Alexandra's eye. Just Alex. Actually, Alexandra set down her coffee in its familiar blue mug. I think you're the star of the show. She nodded toward the window, where a group of young girls stood peeking in, whispering and pointing at Emma. The media storm had transformed their morning routine into something of a public spectacle. Reporters lingered outside the cafe, the auto shop and the dance studio, hungry for glimpses of what they dubbed the modern Cinderella story. Miss Chen, a reporter called out as they left the cafe, is it true you're giving up control of Innovatech for a life of domestic bliss? Before Alexandra could respond, Emma tugged at her hand. Alex isn't giving up anything, she announced with 8-year-old certainty. She's making everything better, like when she fixed our dance studio. Jack watched the reporter's face soften at Emma's words. It was hard to maintain cynicism in the face of such innocent truth. Back at the shop, Alexandra had set up a temporary office in Jack's back room, her laptop sharing space with spare parts catalogs. She was on a video call with her management team when a commotion erupted outside. Are those investors? Jack peered through the window at the group of suits gathering in his parking lot. Alexandra ended her call with a sigh. They're trying to pressure me into reconsidering Waytech's offer. She stood, straightening her casual blazer. Time to face the music. Want backup? Jack offered, only half joking. Always. She squeezed his hand before stepping outside. The confrontation that followed would later trend on social media. Alexandra Chen, in jeans and a blazer, calmly explaining to a group of shocked investors why community investment mattered more than quick profits. Behind her, the honest workspace of Mitchell's Auto Repair stood as a silent testament to her words. Your stock options would triple under Waytech, one investor argued. And what would we lose? Alexandra countered. The trust of our employees, the spirit of innovation, the chance to make real change in communities like this. She gestured to where Emma was showing a customer's daughter her ballet moves between the parked cars. That's the future we should be investing in, not corporate takeovers, but people, real communities, real innovation. The video went viral within hours. Real innovation started trending, with small business owners and tech workers sharing their own stories of community impact. You're changing the narrative, Jack said that evening, watching Emma practice her dance moves in the shop's small office, making them see what really matters. Alexandra leaned against his workbench, her designer skirt collecting smudges she no longer cared about. I had a good teacher. A certain mechanic showed me that true value isn't always measured in dollars. The media attention began to shift. Stories focused less on the romance and more on Alexandra's vision for corporate responsibility. Pictures of Emma teaching tech executives children ballet at community events replaced speculation about Alexandra's social descent. Did you see? Emma burst into the shop one afternoon, waving her school tablet. Melissa's mom says Alex is a role goddess. Role model, sweet pea, Jack corrected, trying not to laugh. That too, Emma beamed at Alexandra. Can we show them your robot ideas at the science fair, please? And somehow, that was how Innovatech's newest innovation hub ended up being presented at a middle school science fair, with children offering surprisingly insightful suggestions for community-focused technology. The headlines changed again. Tech, giant goes local, a new model for corporate innovation. Alexandra's board members, initially skeptical, couldn't argue with the wave of positive publicity and growing investor interest in their community integration model. Through it all, they maintained their morning routine at the corner cup, where Maria steadfastly refused to let any reporters past her door during family breakfast time. In that small cafe, with Emma's chatter and Jack's quiet strength beside her, Alexandra found herself living the best of both worlds. Not a fairy tale, but something better, something real. Innovatech's boardroom felt different this morning. Sunlight streamed through the windows, warming the usually austere space. Alexandra stood at the head of the table, not in her usual power suit, but in a simple blazer over jeans. Her new uniform that bridged both worlds. The numbers don't lie, she began, gesturing to the presentation behind her. Our community integration initiative has generated more positive press than any corporate campaign in company history. Small business applications for our new tech partnership program have exceeded projections by 300%. Richard Holbrook shifted uncomfortably. Press doesn't pay dividends, Alexandra. No? She clicked to the next slide. Our stock has risen 15% since we announced the program. It turns out, Richard, that doing good is good business. The elevator chimed outside. Through the glass walls, Alexandra watched Jack step out, looking somewhat out of place. In his best shirt, but carrying himself with quiet dignity. Emma bounced beside him in her dance outfit, having insisted on coming straight from practice. What is this? Marcus Way demanded as they entered. This is a closed board meeting. This, Alexandra said firmly, is my family. And they're here because what I'm about to propose affects them too. She took a deep breath. I'm announcing the creation of the Innovatech Community Innovation Fund, $1 billion, dedicated to integrating technology with local businesses and community programs. The room erupted in protests. Jack guided Emma to a corner seat, his eyes never leaving Alexandra's face, offering silent support. You can't just allocate that kind of capital without... One board member began. Actually, I can. Alexandra's voice cut through the chaos. As majority shareholder, with the support of our employee stock program. But I'm choosing to put it to a vote, because I believe in this company's original mission, using technology to improve lives. All lives, not just those in corner offices. She clicked through more slides. Mitchell's Auto Repair transformed into a pilot program for AI-assisted diagnostics. Miss Julie's dance studio using virtual reality for remote classes during recovery. Periods. The Corner Cup becoming a test site for a new small business management system. This isn't just about one auto shop or one dance studio, Alexandra continued. It's about proving that corporate success and community values aren't mutually exclusive. The mechanic's daughter got to you, Marcus Way sneered, glancing at Emma. No, Jack spoke up suddenly, his voice quiet but carrying. Alex got to herself. She just needed to remember who she was, beyond the corporate image. Emma slipped out of her chair, approaching the board table with the fearlessness of childhood. From her dance bag, she pulled out a stack of papers, letters from her classmates' parents, small business owners, community members. Miss Julie says when you're telling a story through dance, you have to make people feel it, she announced, distributing the letters. These are all the people who believe in Alex's story. Alexandra felt tears threatening as board members, despite themselves, began reading. Stories of struggling businesses revitalized by Innovatech's programs, communities transformed by accessible technology, lives changed by corporate compassion. The vote is simple, Alexandra said finally. We can be another soulless corporation, or we can be pioneers of a new business model, one that measures success not just in profits but in positive impact. Richard Holbrook was reading one of Emma's letters, his expression softening. This is compelling data. It's more than data. Alexandra looked at Jack and Emma, at the life she'd found outside these glass walls. It's proof that the best innovations come from understanding real people's needs, not from boardrooms, but from auto shops and dance studios and coffee shops. The vote, when it came, wasn't even close. The Community Innovation Fund was approved, with provisions for expansion based on initial results. As celebrations broke out, Emma launched into an impromptu victory dance, making even Marcus Way crack a smile. Told you real was worth fighting for, Jack murmured, taking Alexandra's hand. She squeezed his fingers, watching her two worlds finally merge into something better than either could have been alone. No, she corrected softly, it was worth more than that. It was worth changing for. The grand opening of Mitchell's Innovation Center drew a crowd that spilled onto the street, where the old auto shop had stood. A gleaming new building merged industrial charm with cutting-edge technology. The original sign still hung proudly, now accompanied by Innovatech's logo and the words Community Innovation Hub. Ready? Alexandra squeezed Jack's hand as they faced the gathered crowd. As long as you're doing the talking, he smiled, adjusting Emma's ribbon with his free hand. She wore her dance costume under a child-sized Innovatech jacket, insisting on being dressed for both jobs. The transformation of Mitchell's Auto Repair had become Innovatech's flagship community project. Traditional repair bays now featured AI diagnostic systems, while a new wing housed technology education spaces. Local mechanics trained alongside software developers, creating something entirely new. Today, Alexandra addressed the crowd, we're not just opening a building. We're opening a door to what business can be when we remember that innovation starts with people. She glanced at Jack. Sometimes it starts with a simple act of kindness on a rainy night. Emma bounced forward to help cut the ribbon, her presence a living symbol of two worlds united. Inside, the facility hummed with possibility. Jack's office remained unchanged at his insistence, though it now overlooked a training center where he taught both mechanical skills and the human touch that technology couldn't replace. Look what they wrote! Emma pointed to a wall display, featuring local news coverage. The headline read, Innovatech Revolution, How Love Changed Corporate America. The article detailed the company's transformation. Stock prices had soared as other corporations scrambled to copy the Mitchell model of community integration. The Waytech takeover attempt was now a footnote in business journals, overshadowed by Innovatech's success story. Mrs. Garcia says, I should do my next book report on Alex, Emma announced proudly. She's in my social studies book now? Alexandra laughed, but her eyes grew misty. The journey from corporate isolation to this moment felt both endless and instant. The Corner Cup still hosted their morning coffee meetings, though now community leaders often joined them, planning new initiatives over Maria's pastries. Someone's getting a bit too famous, Jack teased, but pride shone in his eyes as he watched Alexandra guide a group of local business owners through the facility's features. The dance studio had become a testing ground for arts education technology, with Miss Julie consulting on movement tracking software for virtual dance instruction. Emma's ballet class now included students joining remotely from hospitals and rehabilitation centers. Later that evening, after the crowds had gone, the three of them sat in Jack's old office. Emma dozed on the worn couch, her new tablet displaying dance tutorials slipping from her fingers. "Having any regrets?" Jack asked softly, watching Alexandra shed her presentation smile for the real one she saved for them. "About giving up the corner office?" She glanced around the room, at the family photos now mixed with innovation awards, at Emma's drawings displayed alongside technical specifications. "I traded up." Through the window, they could see their reflection in the new building's glass, the CEO, the mechanic, and the little girl who had somehow bridged their worlds. But those labels didn't matter anymore. They were simply a family, building something real together. "Besides," Alexandra added, picking up a folder from Jack's desk, "these quarterly reports from our community programs show better returns than any corporate merger could have. Now who's talking business at family time?" Jack pulled her close, both of them watching Emma sleep. The folder she'd picked up wasn't quarterly reports at all, but their wedding invitation proofs. Simple, elegant cards that read, "Love is the greatest innovation of all." Outside, Chicago's evening traffic hummed past their transformed corner of the world. Inside, in an office that smelled of motor oil and hope, they had built something no corporate strategy could have designed, a future that ran on heart as much as technology. Real innovation, they had discovered, wasn't about disrupting markets. It was about connecting them, about seeing the extraordinary in the ordinary, about building bridges between towers and neighborhoods. But most of all, it was about having the courage to make life's most important merger, the one between love and legacy. 1 year later, the Corner Cup buzzed with its usual morning energy, but today the regulars had surrendered their favorite spots to a film crew from the Business Innovation Network. They were capturing B-roll for a documentary called The Mitchell Effect, How One Family Revolutionized Corporate America. "Mom, Dad, look what I got." Emma burst through the door, her backpack bouncing. She thrust a paper toward Alexandra and Jack, who sat at their usual table, his coffee black, her blue mug steaming. "First place?" Alexandra examined the science. "Fair certificate. For your community technology impact study?" "My teacher says it's the first time someone used actual corporate data for a 5th grade project." Emma beamed. "Uncle David helped me with the spreadsheets." Jack chuckled. David, Alexandra's once formal assistant, had become uncle somewhere between teaching Emma basic coding and sneaking her extra cookies during board meetings. "Speaking of data," Jack slid a tablet across the table. "The new apprenticeship program, numbers are in. 20 local mechanics certified on the AI diagnostic systems last month." Alexandra smiled, remembering the early days when traditional mechanics had viewed the technology with suspicion. Now, Mitchell's Innovation Center had a waiting list of applicants eager to bridge the gap between wrenches and algorithms. "Miss Julie says the virtual dance program is going global," Emma continued, stealing a bite of Alexandra's muffin. "We're getting students from Paris next week." The documentary crew filmed discreetly as the family shared their breakfast. They'd chosen this location deliberately, the place where a billionaire CEO had rediscovered her humanity over countless cups of coffee. "Ready for the big interview?" Jack asked softly as Emma chatted with Maria about the day's special. Alexandra looked around the cafe at the life they'd built. The wedding photo on the wall showed them right here, exchanging vows among the mismatched chairs and local artwork. She'd worn a simple dress. He'd had a smudge of motor oil on his sleeve that no one had noticed until the photos came back, and Emma had scattered flower petals mixed with mechanical washers down the aisle. "Actually," she said, "I thought Emma should do it." Their daughter's face lit up. "Really? Can I show them my presentation, the one about how love is the best innovation?" The crew director nearly dropped his coffee. Later that evening, after the interviews were done and the cameras had gone, the family walked the short distance from the Innovation Center to their home. They'd bought the Victorian fixer-upper in the neighborhood, despite raised eyebrows from Alexandra's social circle. Now it stood as a testament to their merged worlds. Restored woodwork alongside smart home technology, a state-of-the-art kitchen where they still managed to burn toast regularly. "Oh, I almost forgot!" Emma raced upstairs and returned with a wrinkled envelope. "We got our invitation back from the Time Capsule Project. The community initiative had asked families to write letters to themselves a year ago when the Innovation Center opened." Jack unfolded the paper, written in Emma's careful fourth-grade handwriting. "Dear future us, I hope Dad still lets Mom make coffee even though she's not very good at it. I hope the robots haven't taken over the auto shop. I hope we're still having breakfast at Maria's, and that I'm a better dancer, and that everyone knows you don't have to be rich or poor or anything specific to be a family. Love, Emma. P.S. Mom, please don't wear those CEO suits anymore. Your normal clothes are prettier." Alexandra laughed through sudden tears, remembering how terrified she'd been of losing everything. Instead, she'd gained a world where board meetings happened over hot chocolate, where innovation meant connecting hearts as much as technologies, where success was measured in morning hugs and community impact reports. "What should we write for next year's capsule?" Jack asked, pulling them both close. Emma thought for a moment. "How about, Dear Future Us, we hope you're still real." Outside their window, the Innovation Center's lights glowed warmly in the dusk. A young apprentice mechanic was explaining a diagnostic screen to a coding student. In the attached dance studio, Miss Julie's advanced class practiced alongside holographic partners from 3 different countries. And in their kitchen, still learning to navigate toast and technology, love and legacy, a CEO, a mechanic, and their daughter added another page to a story that had changed not just their lives, but an entire corporate culture's understanding of what really matters. It wasn't a fairy tale ending, it was better, it was real.